Back to Fox 11 News in Depth. We're changing our focus now to the future of jobs and the rise of the machines. It's a question you hear a lot of people asking these days. Are robots going to take all of our jobs? This may symbolize one of the most important developments in the history of the workplace, the unveiling of a fully automated driverless semi-vehicle that could disrupt trucking and ride-sharing industries, costing millions of drivers their jobs. And with the advances in robotics and artificial intelligence, a recent study from the Brookings Institute says that in the coming years, 25% of Americans could lose their jobs to the rise of the machines. Well, how will that affect the jobs? We're going to be talking about that and looking into the future. Joining me now are Working Nation Editor-in-Chief Ramona Schindelheim and Joan Lynch, who's Working Nation's Chief Content and Programming Officer. And I'm so glad both of you are here because you know a lot more than I do about this stuff. I've watched it happening from the sidelines, but Working Nation is focused completely on jobs and things like that. Ramona, why don't you explain to us what that is?
Yeah, we're a nonprofit news and content provider, and we're made up of, our content side's made up of journalists, founded by Art Bilger, who's a philanthropist here in Los Angeles. And the purpose is to look at the future of work and not just report the scare tactics, robots are taking our jobs, but look at how technology is changing the nature of work. So some jobs will go away, others are being created, and then we also look at what's being done to train everybody to be prepared for that.
Joan, is there any way in the world that you could look into that crystal ball, tell me what the lottery numbers are for tonight, and then I won't have to have a job?
No, I would keep those numbers to myself.
Yeah, of course you would. Well, let's talk about it. What is the future of jobs? Very big, broad question, but let's break it down.
Sure. I mean, we just had an event last week at the University of Pennsylvania where we talked about things like analytics and how moving forward, the access to data is going to change almost every job out there. So, you know, for people going into school, one of our tactics through storytelling is just to let them know it's not just manufacturing that's being hurt by this. It's not just somebody that's on a factory floor. There are lawyers and doctors and others who are dealing with technology coming in and taking over some of the areas that they work.
And we've seen some of that technology, some of these sort of robotic arms and different things that happen. We know Amazon's looking at drones to deliver to your door. I mean, pick up on that. There's so much happening.
Yeah, right now healthcare is probably still the biggest growing industry when it comes to technology. So you need people who know how to read from a screen, how to read an X-ray, but there are different skills. There's different skills: medical assistant, all those jobs. There's also jobs in education where people are teaching people online. There's the data analytics to pick up on that. Nearly every industry in this country depends on people being able to read data and be able to analyze it and move forward. And the data changes because machines can dig deeper into it and pull more stuff out of it.
It is interesting about the machines. I mean, we've seen so many great science fiction movies, right, that have to do with machines taking over, and all of a sudden, we're not needed anymore.
Right. Well, one of the things that's really great about Working Nation is that we're so focused on telling the stories, but from a human perspective. So when you hear that driving is one of the top jobs in a lot of states in this country, people hear about, you know, the autonomous vehicles. But what happens to the driver?
Yeah, what happens to the driver?
So that's really where we're digging a little bit deeper.
What have you found? What happens to the driver?
There's some companies out there that are really trying to figure out ways internally to reskill their folks into different positions. It might be into logistics, into sales, into any of these areas. At the same time, there's a lot of open jobs in driving in this country, in truck driving. So there's a lot of information out there that people just don't have.
We understand the notion that new equipment creates new opportunities.
Historically, it has.
But you know what? By the same token, one machine can handle 5 jobs. You lose 4 jobs when that happens.
But we're moving from a very task-oriented society. machines could take over some of those simple repetitive motions, just like on the assembly line when,
But those are real jobs for people.
Those are real. But then what needs to happen is people need to be trained to more knowledge-based jobs. So some of what we look at are programs that are out there. Here in Los Angeles, for example, there's a cloud computing program that's being set up by Amazon Web Services. So people aren't working in the storerooms, filling in boxes. What they're learning is how to become cloud computer technicians.
But I suspect that this is great for young people who are coming out of school that are learning new techniques and all of that sort of thing. But what about the middle ground? 40s, 50s, getting up toward the 60s, people still working in the workforce. What about that?
And it's interesting, our founder, Art Bilger, often says to us, this is the first time in history that we've had to retrain or reskill our 47-year-olds in this country. There's a lot of people who are at that point where they can't retire or they don't want to retire, and they're trying to figure out what are the opportunities that are out there for me. I know Sherry Lansing locally within the state of California has a program where they're taking people who are perhaps being pushed out or choosing to leave technology, but are being moved through her group, Encore, into teaching positions in math and science, and there's a great need for that.
So there's
here in
a real
California.
retooling of the entire society.
Absolutely, and it's taking the skills. This is one of the things that's really important. When you get to a certain age, sometimes people can be dismissed, but you have those skills and the soft skills and all of the things that we talk about to be able to move into some of these positions where we're really needing people.
Real quick wrap up because we have to move on to the next segment. Go ahead, Ramona.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the things that is, you said, a retooling of our society. Not everybody, and people don't like to hear this sometimes, not everybody has to go to college.
That's right.
About a third of the jobs that will exist in the future will probably be high school educated. The other 2/3, you need some kind of post-high school training.
It could be community college. Doesn't necessarily have to be a four-year school.
Or it could be certification. But people have to have this idea that moving forward in their lives, they may have to retool and reskill many, many times.
All right, we're going to hang on to you for a second. Still ahead, they're the fastest growing group of workers, not millennials, but baby boomers in their 60s. So how is all this disruption in the workplace affecting them? More on that when we come back.